Ah, the Pathfinder 2e Bard. You love being a support, you love helping everybody out, you love giving +1 to hit and +1 to damage. As long as they remember you gave it to them and they, don't forget, and you have to tell them, hey, don't forget your +1 every single attack. But did you know that the Bard can do a whole lot more than just use Courageous Anthem to buff their party members? In fact, I'd say the Bard is one of the most underutilized classes in Pathfinder 2e because people get too comfortable in doing the same thing every single turn. So, welcome to 5 tips on how to play the Bard in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. And no, none of these tips are use Courageous Anthem. I want to give a huge shout out to all the members of the No Net One's Patreon. You can play. I didn't first try it. No, it's over. Let the list keep going. They're there. Yeah. No, you know what this is. You know what this is. This is me stumbling over my words, and instead of just doing another take, I'm making it a joke so you can laugh at me. There's a link in the description if you want to pledge for $1, $5, $10, and $20 a month. I'll do the same thing, but they support me a little bit more. I'm stuttering. No, I'm gonna let this one hang. No. I got through the champion one, easy. I'm letting the awkwardness hang. If you want to skip the awkwardness, you can skip to this time code. But the real ones of you out there, you're going to let this hang. You're going to let this soak. I don't like that I used the term soak. It's kind of a weird one. Soak. Everyone talks about moist. Moist isn't that bad. But soak. I don't know, something about the s into the k at the end, Maybe that's why people don't like moist, because it's like st, which is similar to sk, but there's something with the O in the middle of soak. Okay, I can't just start the video. So let's get this first tip out of the way, because I basically already leaked it. Tip number 1 is, you don't have to just cast Courageous Anthem. In fact, I'd say past level 2 or 4, it stops being the best option at all times. At low levels, this tip is hard to follow because you don't have that many other options. Courageous Anthem is what's known as a composition cantrip. Bards have composition cantrips and composition spells. They work the same way. One just takes a focus point, and the other one, the cantrips, can be used as many times as you want. But one thing you need to keep in mind is you can only use one composition spell every single turn, and that includes cantrips. And as you level up, especially if you take certain feats, you're going to get more options like Hymn of Healing or Rallying Anthem or Triple Time. You can only use one of these per turn. There's some feats down the line that let you use multiple in a turn. If you want to take those, great. But if you are restricting yourself to only using Courageous Anthem every single turn, you will never be able to use all these other parts of the Bard's kit. So instead of just getting comfortable and buffing your teammates and maybe shooting with a crossbow or something, consider the battlefield, consider what's going on, consider the tools you have at your disposal, and think about which composition is going to be most beneficial for that round of combat, because you can change it every single round unless you use something like Lingering Composition. It's awesome. It's a fantastic design for a class that I never really thought too hard about, so I wanted to make this the first tip because I think it's important for understanding the Bard at their core. They're not just a +1 machine, but they can definitely just be a +1 machine if that's what you want to do. Now, this next tip might hurt some feelings, it might really crush some hopes and dreams, and I feel bad about that, but I think it needs to be said, because I've seen people make this mistake. Hi, I'm people, I've made this mistake. Bards are not healers. If you are playing a Bard, you are not a reliable source of healing. So why do I say that? Bards are full spellcasters. They get just as many spells as most other spellcasters in the game. 3 spells per rank. Surely they can put out some decent healing with that, right? Well, no, because Bards are restricted to the occult spell list. And the occult spell list does not get the heal spell. And I know some people might be upset thinking that, oh, you can heal without the heal spell. Well, the occult spell list has 1 healing option. Unless I'm stupid and I'm missing one, in which case please feel free to yell at me in the comments. They have Soothe. Soothe is not that great of a healing spell. The heal spell can be used 3 different ways for 1, 2, or 3 actions, healing for either 1d8, 1d8 plus 8, or 1d8 in a 30-foot area. Soothe heals a single target for 1d10 plus 4. And yeah, it gives a bonus to saving throws against emotion effects. That's useful in the right situation, but as a general healing tool, you can't rely on Soothe that much. A level 1 Bard can only heal for 2d10 plus 8 over the course of an entire day. And now you can take Hymn of Healing at level 2, and this isn't a bad feat. I want to make it clear here, just because I'm claiming the Bard is not a healer doesn't mean they can't heal. It just means that healing is not their strong suit, and they can't burst heal. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say, is that bards can't burst heal. The reason clerics and druids and divine sorcerers are such amazing healers is because, especially at higher levels, if you're level 5, 2-action heal spell heals for 3d8 plus 24. The same upcast of Soothe only heals for 3d10 plus 12. It falls further and further behind as spell ranks increase, and they don't even get bonus spells like the cleric does. And Hymn of Healing, like I said, it's a great feat, but it gives fast healing. And if you're unaware of what fast healing is, I don't blame you, because not many things use it. It gives you a value of hit points you restore every turn. If you get Hymn of Healing at level 1 or 2, then when you use it on an ally, first off, it does count as your composition for the turn, so you can't use Courageous Anthem, but it only gives them fast healing 2 and 2 temporary hit points per turn, effectively healing them for 2 hit points and then an extra 2 hit point shield. And remember, temporary hit points don't stack. So this lasts for 4 rounds, so you've given them 8 total hit points over 4 rounds. And even at low levels, something can easily hit you for 6 to 15 damage right at level 1. If they're at 2 hit points, I'm afraid to say it, but 2 hit points per round plus a 2 temporary hit point shield isn't really going to save anybody if they take a hit for 7 or 8 damage the next turn. So for the sake of clarity, you can heal as a bard, but the class is not designed as a healer. It does not have the same healing capabilities as other classes. So don't go into the bard assuming you're going to be able to save the entire party from the brink of death by healing everybody. I hate to say it, you just won't. And once again, we're coming back in with a bonus tip. Put it on the screen, like right there. Make it really small so people have to squint to see it. This bonus tip doesn't count as one of my 5 tips, but it is a good one. The bard is not a jack of all trades. If you're used to bards in other systems, which are like skill monkeys, they get some spell casting, some martial abilities, and some skill proficiency, like more skills than other classes, you're not going to get that. You know, there's no expertise for bards in Pathfinder 2e. Bards are full spellcasters. If you want to play a jack of all trades, play a rogue, and then watch my rogue how to play guide, so I have another view for the YouTube gods. Please help me, they're holding me hostage. My third tip, I don't like. I don't like this tip because I think it is kind of bad game design. You know I love Pathfinder, you know I think this game is very, very well made. Every bard should take impressive performance. All this does at its core is allows you to roll performance instead of diplomacy to make an impression. And if you ignore the weird stage-based attitude system that Pathfinder 2e has as written, which most people do, this just translates to if you were to roll diplomacy to ask someone something or to meet someone, you roll performance instead. And let's be real, that should just be a bard standard. Now, there is the polymath muse that gives you the ability to roll performance in place of diplomacy, and performance in place of intimidation, and performance in place of deception, and that's a lot stronger. I'm glad that's restricted to one subclass, but I really feel like every bard is going, I mean, you start trained in performance and your key ability score is charisma. Naturally, you are going to want to take impressive performance because if you do, that saves you an entire skill proficiency in diplomacy. So why is this a tip? I mean, the tip is just grab it. I hate to say it, this is one of the simplest tips, one of my least favorite tips I've ever given for this game, but just grab impressive performance and you don't need proficiency in diplomacy. Unless you really, really want some of the other diplomacy skill feats at higher levels, then yeah, you're not gonna need diplomacy in any way because 90% of the time when you're rolling diplomacy, it's to make an impression. Technically, making a request is kind of a different action, but I think 9 out of 10 tables all play it the same way. So talk to your GM, obviously. If it's not going to be as good at your table, then maybe this tip doesn't hit as close to home. These games are subjective. Literally, none of these tips matter because none of the rules matter. But as far as most tables are concerned, impressive performance. It's a must take on pretty much every single bard forever, because you get to roll your best skill to talk to people, and you don't need to invest in a second skill at all. Tip number 4 is piggybacking a little bit off of tip number 1, where you don't always have to use Courageous Anthem, but the Bard is in a special position. Do you want to buff your allies to make them stronger, hit harder, and have bonus effects? Or do you want to debuff your enemies to make them easier to hit less hard, or be more restricted in their movement? Well, good news! You are the Bard with access to the occult spell list, which is all about buffing your allies and debuffing enemies. If you're unfamiliar with the term buff, it comes from video games. It just means to make stronger, and obviously debuff is to make weaker. And you're in a very, very interesting case with the Bard, because your compositions are almost always one action, meaning you can 1 action buff your allies and then 2 action occult spell to debuff an enemy, or inverse it, use a 1 action composition like Dirge of Doom and then a 2 action spell that buffs an ally like Haste. Now I have to go see if Haste is in the occult spell list, and my internet is out, so I can't use Archives of Nethys, so I have to open a book. I haven't used a physical book in like 9 years. Is this paper? What is it even made of? There's a lot of spells in this game. It is on the occult spell list. Let's go. So yeah, as the Bard, you can make amazing use of your action economy by 1 action buff, 2 action debuff, or 1 action debuff, 2 action buff. You can get so creative on your turns, and once again, this is why it's great to have multiple compositions in your tool belt to be able to use whatever you need. Are you going to cast Fear on an enemy this turn? Cool, throw up Courageous Anthem. You're lowering their armor class and raising your allies' chance to hit. Are you going to throw out a Haste spell? Cool, cast Haste and then use Dirge of Doom to frighten everybody around you. There's so many things the Bard can do. Also, Dirge of Doom is just insane. Look at your toolkit, look at the spells you have available to you, and get creative with your action economy. Buffing and debuffing, you can do both. And for tip number 5, it's gonna sound repetitive, it's gonna sound like I'm hitting the same nail with a different hammer every single one of these tips. Part of that's because spellcasters are just a little bit tough to give advice for sometimes, but I do think this is worth saying. As a Bard, you are a full spellcaster. Use it. You have full spell slots. You have full access to the occult spell list. You're not restricted in any way. You're not a bounded caster. You don't get less slots than other spellcasters. You have a full repertoire, pretty much as big as a sorcerer's. So you do not just need to cast Courageous Anthem and call it a day. Use your spells. You're level 5. You have like 7 or 8 spells per day, not counting your compositions. I know it's weird to think about if you're coming from other systems where Bards may be less of a caster and more of like a utility support role, but that's just not true in Pathfinder. You are a full spellcaster with full spellcasting proficiency scaling. You are just as good as that witch or that wizard, maybe not as good as the cleric because they're broken, but you are a full spellcaster, and you should make use of it. And that is my 5th and final tip for how to improve your Bard in Pathfinder 2e. I like the Bard a lot, which is wild, because if you look at some of my old videos, the Bard wasn't even in my top 10 when there were 12 total classes for this game. But it's grown on me a lot over the years. You know, I like the simplicity where a new player who just sort of wants to be along for the ride, we all know that player, there's nothing wrong with that player. If you are that player, cool. There's nothing wrong with wanting to just sort of be along for the ride, be a little passive effect on the party. You know, Courageous Anthem, I'm gonna shoot my crossbow, I'm gonna reload. It's not optimal, but you're not useless either. It's a really cool character to play, but the Bard can also get so deep and complex with layers on layers on layers of which compositions you cast, which compositions you take from feats, which spells you ready up in your repertoire for... I do love the Bard. I'm gonna come out and say it. I like the Bard. Is it in my top 10 classes? Absolutely not. But I really enjoy it. I think it's a fantastic class in the game, and no one even comes close to how simple and easy the buffs and advantages come to the party than the Bard. I don't even know if that sentence I just said was in English, but the video is over. Shout out to my patrons again. Thank you so much. If you want to support me as well, there's a link in the description where you can pledge for $1, $5, $10, or $20 a month. They all do the exact same thing. They just support me a little bit more. See, I can do it in one take! The video's over.